you've really said it, and this has been the stage, and you've said, July 1st, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
What are we waiting for?
Yeah, because
but you know that a lot of people are starting to say, well, wait a second. The speaker was just here. People in your own party, your supporters, et cetera, are saying, oh, hold on a second, not so fast.
Yeah, well, that's the way I view it is let's sit down, let's talk about it. There is no good reason not to build this bridge. It is absolutely something appropriate in terms of where we're going through this process. Because actually it's interesting that if you look at the legislation says we're not going to use any taxpayer money, we're not going to take any Michigan taxpayer debt. It's a great opportunity to create an authority then that will go out to the private market with the Canadians and have a private party come in and build, finance, and run a bridge and move ahead for international trade that would create lots of short-term and long-term jobs. And the main point of all this is, it's like, shouldn't we encourage free enterprise and competition? That's absolutely the way our system works.
So then why is the state involved at all if we are encouraging free enterprise and private industry, and we actually have a company that's already been there, done that, and pretty successfully?
Yeah, well, we've had the Canadians come to us and say, would you like to partner on doing this project and actually be in the background in many ways? Because, again, it would be a privately built bridge. The best part of it is we would have some residual ownership, and in 50 years or so, we would have an asset we could lease again that would benefit our citizens.
In 50 years or so, we'd have complete ownership.
We would own 50%. The Canadians would own the other 50%. And what you'd do is you'd just do that situation over again where you'd find a private party to come run it, and we would actually get proceeds from that.
Well, you've always said it's just another big real estate deal.
It's a big real estate deal that makes a whole lot of sense. And there's only one party in the state that wouldn't like it. And there's a lot of misinformation, bad information out there. And when you look at the facts, this is just something that's compelling about creating jobs, international trade, and future opportunities for our state, because exports are a big part of our future.
But, you know, Governor, what comes to my mind, and I said this earlier, all that comes to my mind when we talk about the state being involved in a massive project like this is the Big Dig in Boston, the Big Dig. What a great idea, the best of intentions. It was going to be fabulous, and it has been the boondoggle of all boondoggles. And all you have to do is Google Big Dig, and you'll see an unbelievable story of cost overruns and problems. And frankly, that's a concern.
Yeah, well, there's always cases in the private sector or the public sector of people not managing a project appropriately. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And because if you look right here at the Mackinac Bridge,
right,
a lot of the same criticisms were leveled about building the Mackinac Bridge. And aren't we all glad in Michigan we have the Mackinac Bridge?
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
But then there's the Zilwaukee Bridge, where there were the cost overruns and things that we didn't expect and problems. And I would say it could be considered a boondoggle. Nothing like the Big Dig, of course, but
even in that context, the legislation makes it clear that if there's liabilities related to anything like that, they are not state of Michigan liabilities to our citizens.
They would be to the private industry.
They would be the private party, and again, to the authority itself. Michigan would not be using its credit at all for this project.
Then what do you think the delay, even from people who are on your side and very supportive of everything, basically, that you've said and done so far, those are the same people who are saying, wait a second.
Well, if you go back, this was a project not managed well last year, in terms of the legislative process, how it was done, the legislation itself, and again, the misinformation out there. So it's something that in many respects, if this would have been a clean sheet of paper, people showing up in January to say, here's the project, I think that would have been done. Whereas a practical matter, we were sort of starting below ground zero in terms of having a difficult situation about recommunicating and getting the facts out there. And that's the nice part. I came into office with no preconceived notions. I'm an old accountant, finance person. So I started looking at this project going, wow, this just makes a whole lot of sense. It actually is in line with competitiveness, free enterprise. Financially, it's a really good deal for the state of Michigan. And most importantly, it's this jobs concept, both in short term and long term, of saying Michigan's future is tied to being an exporter in many respects, and we need this opportunity. And if we don't, it's just going to end up in Niagara in New York, and we're going to be a loser.
Well, I think there's no argument that we need a bridge. I mean, I think there's no argument we need another span for a variety of reasons. It's how we get that done. I have a couple of napkins here, and I just remind you that Harry Potter was written out on a napkin in a bar. And did you know
I'm not sure Harry Potter was... Oh, the books themselves.
Yeah, the books themselves.
I didn't see Harry Potter in the bar often.
No. I meant the book was written. And so I've talked to a lot of people, including Matt Maroon was on the show yesterday, and he's as passionate about it for his family as you are or others are as passionate about his family not building it. I mean, we understand that. We heard from Chase Bolger that he's never been on a project before where there's so much information that is so far apart, depending on who you ask and who you check with.
Yeah, one of the nice things about this, Paul, though, is again, Paul W., if you do this authority, ultimately the arbitrator to say, does this bridge make sense or not, is the private sector when the bids go out. To say, is there going to be a private party coming in willing to build and construct and finance this bridge? And if the free market doesn't decide it's worthwhile, then we create an authority, okay, there's no bridge. But if the private market believes there's a fair opportunity with a good financial return to them and for this project, that there's enough competition and demand, they'll come back and say, hey, we're ready to build this bridge. Let them build the bridge. And why wouldn't we want competition? Why wouldn't we want more lanes created, more opportunity for international trade? If you look at, I understand why Matt doesn't like it. I mean, they would have competition then. But isn't that the American system?
Well, it is. Here's his question now. The NITC will cost over $2 billion for bridge and U.S. plazas, etc. If Canada gives or loans, are they giving or loaning?
It's actually an advance. It's not. It's a
loan.
Equity investment. No, it's not a loan.
Well, an advance.
It's an equity investment.
All right. So if they do $500 million, that would mean there's still $1 billion to be spent on the Michigan side. At 6% interest times $1 billion is $60 million per year. If the tolls for the bridge are less than $60 million before operating cost, who would pay?
It comes out of, the financing. There's no obligation to the state of Michigan. That's actually, we made that as explicit in the statute as you can get. There's no recourse back to the state of Michigan.
All right. What if the construction costs are underestimated, which of course can happen, and has happened? I use the Big Dig as a horrible example, but what about that?
Well, that's the private part.
Again, you're saying the state of Michigan cannot be held accountable in any way, shape, or form for cost overruns or anything else.
That's the way this is structured.
And then when you get to the point where you want to be,
we're cheap guys. We're trying to make sure we don't put us on the hook.
You have been with that checkbook, and God bless you for that, because somebody needed to realize that we have to get that thing balanced.
I'm just a small town boy from Battle Creek. I don't spend money if I have to, in terms of, especially when it's our citizens' money.
All right, but it's better to do it your way than to let just completely the private sector do it and you not be involved as a state entity at all.
Well, those dollars on each side are for the interchanges that we would normally be working with someone anyway to do. And the nice part is that's the beauty of this, is the Canadians would be doing all that work with their funds would be doing that work. We'd have American workers doing the construction on the U.S. side.
There's even been that question. Are you going to buy steel only from America? You're only going to use union labor? All of these questions.
Those are all normal questions you get. But as a practical matter, we're going to have more federal road dollars than available for projects all over the state of Michigan for road construction, and we can use these dollars for matching dollars. So it's a win for every corner of the state of Michigan in terms of better roads and bridges, which is a huge thing. And in addition to that, even more important again is this jobs question, to say if you're in agriculture, you want to export, this bridge helps with that. If you're in manufacturing, you've talked to the manufacturers here. I mean, literally, I've talked to manufacturers here. One of our bigger companies has 600 trucks a day running back and forth.
Again, the question isn't do we need a bridge or want a bridge? We do.
Yeah.
It's how we get there.
Well, let the Maroons bid on the bridge.